Welcome to BookPilot, your destination for powerful ideas from the world's most impactful books. Today, we're diving into an absolute classic, Michael E. Gerber's phenomenal book, The E-Myth Revisited: Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. The whole premise here tackles this massive, glaring problem. Why do so many small businesses completely fail? And more importantly, how on earth do you build one that runs without you having to be there 24/7? If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed, just completely trapped by your own business, well, this summary is going to be a real game changer for you.
75%. Man, there is a terrifying reality to starting a small business. We've all heard that old stat, right? The one that says 50% of small businesses fail in their first year. But here is the real gut punch. Of the ones that actually survive that grueling first year, 75% of them are going to fail in the next 5 years. I mean, that is just a staggering failure rate.
So how do you beat those overwhelming odds? How can you create a business that doesn't just scrape by, but runs like a dream and actually gives you the financial freedom and the free time you wanted in the first place? Look, most owners out there are stressed, they're overworked, and they are completely exhausted. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to escape that trap using the brilliant frameworks laid out in Gerber's book.
Okay, let's jump right into part one, the fatal assumption.
A lot of businesses start with someone Gerber calls the technician. This is usually a really great worker who decides to quit their job, leave their boss, and become their own boss. But then, they just find themselves completely buried. And this happens because of what Gerber calls the fatal assumption. Basically, this is the belief that just because you understand the technical work of a business, you automatically understand how to run a business that does that technical work. Think about it. You've got a highly skilled barber who opens a barbershop, or maybe a super talented video editor who starts an editing agency. They assume, hey, I'm great at this skill, so I naturally know how to run a company doing it. But honestly, they are two totally different things.
And because of that one assumption, you don't actually have a business. You have a job. It's kind of a tragic irony, really. The business that was supposed to give you all this freedom completely enslaves you. Think about it. When you worked for someone else, you had one job. Now you're doing 10 different jobs. You're doing the accounting, the marketing, the janitorial work. And let's be real, you probably have no idea how to do most of them. The business has literally become your boss, and it turns out it's the worst boss in the world.
Which brings us to part two, the three personalities at war.
Gerber argues that every business owner is actually three different people wrapped into one, and they are constantly at war with each other. It's a lot like a dieter who's desperately torn between eating a healthy salad and grabbing some junk food. First up, you have the entrepreneur. Now, this is the visionary. They live totally in the future. They want to engineer chaos into harmony, and they crave absolute control to reach this big, grand dream. Second, we have the manager. The manager is practical. They live in the present, and they just crave order. If the entrepreneur is the one making a messy junk drawer of wild ideas, the manager is the one standing there with a label maker, desperately trying to organize it all. And finally, you have the technician. This is the doer. They live in the present, they just want to put their head down and get the work done, and they absolutely hate being interrupted by the entrepreneur's crazy ideas or the manager's strict rules. This internal battle is literally tearing your business apart because, well, someone always has to lose.
All right, let's move on to part three, the three phases of a business.
You see, businesses grow a lot like living organisms. Phase one is infancy, and this phase is entirely run by the technician. You are basically a master juggler at this point. You're doing the accounting, the sales, the marketing, and all the actual technical work. You're probably pulling 12 to 14-hour days, 7 days a week. You are totally 100% invested. But there's a limit, right? Eventually, the balls you're juggling are going to drop. You realize you just can't do it all yourself. Now, when this reality sinks in, a lot of technicians just lock the doors and quit. But the ones who survive, they move on to phase two. Phase two is adolescence. This is the phase where you finally decide, okay, I need to get some help. For example, since most owners absolutely hate doing the books, let's say you hire an accountant. We'll call him Harry. Harry is great. On day one, he takes this massive mountain of paperwork right off your desk. Suddenly, you realize you can take longer lunches. Life is getting easier. But there is a massive problem here. And it's what we can call the Harry problem. You see, you didn't actually delegate to Harry. You abdicated. You essentially just dumped the work on his lap and ran away without giving him any direction on how your specific business should be run.
And that leads right into the adolescent trap. It goes like this. First, you abdicate tasks. Because Harry has zero direction, he just starts doing things his own way. Second, mistakes and chaos start to pile up. Customers start complaining, you start losing control, and then third, the breaking point hits. You realize no one cares about the business as much as you do. So you end up doing one of two things. You either shrink the business back down to just yourself, where it's safe but you're miserable and overworked all over again, or you keep pushing forward in all that chaos until you physically and mentally self-destruct. Unfortunately, that's the fate of most small businesses.
But there is a third phase, and it's your way out. It's called maturity. As Tom Watson of IBM famously said, IBM had to act like a great company before it became a great company. See, successful companies, think McDonald's, Disney, or Apple, they don't just magically end up mature. They actually start out mature from day one. The owner starts with a real entrepreneurial perspective. They envision exactly how the finished business is going to look and function, instead of just acting like a technician who's looking for a place to work.
Let's explore how to do that in Part 4, the franchise prototype. To make this work, you absolutely must shift from having a people-dependent business to a system-dependent business. Listen, if your success relies entirely on hiring highly paid, rare experts to do everything perfectly, you are in big trouble. They are expensive, and they're really hard to replace. Instead, you need checklists, you need how-to manuals, you need exact step-by-step instructions so that everyday people can execute the tasks with total precision. The system itself needs to do the heavy lifting, not some individual's rare talent.
The fundamental rule here is this. You have to work on your business, not in it. You really need to pretend that you're going to franchise your business 5,000 times. So, if you own a cake shop, you can't just be in the back baking the cakes. You need to write the exact manual on the oven temperatures, how to sweep the floors, and even the exact phrasing your employees use at the cash register. It has to be a perfect, replicable clone. What you're really doing is building a machine that works flawlessly without your constant interference.
And that brings us to the final piece, Part 5, the business development process. This process is broken down into 3 distinct continuous steps. We've got 1, innovation, 2, quantification, and 3, orchestration. Let's walk through exactly how you use these 3 steps to constantly build and refine your business prototype.
First up is innovation. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean inventing some crazy new product. It means innovating your daily operations. For example, instead of having your staff greet customers with a standard, boring, "May I help you?" what if they ask, "Hi, have you been here before?" That one tiny script change opens up a whole conversation for repeat customer discounts or properly welcoming first-timers. Or maybe it's testing whether your salespeople sell more when they're wearing a blue suit instead of a brown one. It's all about making those tiny, impactful operational tweaks. But you can't just guess if an innovation actually works, which brings us to step 2, quantification. If you're going to test suit colors, you need the hard data. If the baseline brown suit generates a certain amount of sales, and the blue suit generates a 16% increase, boom, you now have a fact. You're replacing all of the owner's vague feelings and assumptions with hard, trackable data. You test, you measure, and you prove what actually grows your business.
Once you have that solid data, you move right to step 3, orchestration. This simply means standardizing your proven successes. If that blue suit in the new greeting generated 16% more revenue, well, that's no longer a test. That is now baked directly into the mandatory company training manual. It is orchestrated into the system. From now on, everyone wears a blue suit. Everyone uses the new greeting. You do this for every single task in the business until the entire operation is just a beautifully, finely tuned machine.
So, let's bring it all together with these key takeaways. First, beware the fatal assumption. Just because you know the technical work definitely does not mean you know how to run the business. Second, you have to acknowledge and balance the entrepreneur, manager, and technician that are constantly warring inside your head. Third, don't just build a job that you're going to hate, build a system-dependent business. Fourth, remember the absolute golden rule. Work on your business, not in it. And finally, use that continuous cycle of innovation, quantification, and orchestration to perfect your franchise prototype. By following these steps, you actually build a business that runs itself, finally giving you that true financial freedom you wanted. So I want you to ask yourself today, if you walked away from your business for 6 months right now, would it thrive without you, or would it completely collapse? If the answer is collapse, well, it's time to start building your prototype.
If you enjoyed this audiobook summary and want to discover more powerful ideas from great books, subscribe to BookPilot and stay tuned for more.